If you believe in human rights and believe in international law, then don't just say so, do so. Stop the arms supplies and recognise the state of Palestine. But our media are also to be challenged on this. Many of the global media have been very effective at covering the court cases and covering the demonstrations. Many of the British media have been missing. And so the Independent Alliance group of MPs this week wrote a short guide on how to ask questions about genocide and gave a copy of our guide to every single one of the parliamentary lobbyists for every one of the news channels so they can understand that there is a job for them to do as well. The children of Gaza suffer most abominably. The children of Gaza being brought up amongst rubble, seeing their mates die, and looking forward to nothing at the moment other than thirst and hunger and probably a very early death as they're driven out of Gaza into Egypt. We have to do all we can. Speak up, shout out, demand, make as much noise and as much presence as you possibly can everywhere to achieve the end we want, which is the liberation of the Palestinian people, an end to the occupation.
Hello, my name is Greg Stoker. I'm a former United States Army Ranger. I did 4 combat deployments to Afghanistan in the U.S. Special Operations community. I'm now an anti-war activist and geopolitical analyst for Mint Press News. I also have my own podcast, Colonial Outcast, where we talk about anti-imperialism, amongst other things. Well, I think the Nakba serves as a great reminder, and what's going on in Palestine now, which is still a continuation of the Nakba, which never ended, is that whatever our governments, and I'm talking about the UK government as well, is willing to do to Palestinians, they are willing, inevitably, to do to you. So, to a lesser extent. So whatever violence we perpetrate overseas, whatever forms of technology and apartheid and occupation that we use to surveil and keep Palestinians in their place is used almost immediately by our own governments, on our own citizens, by our own police departments. So if you value your own personal freedoms, your right to privacy, your right to speech, your right to not live under a complete bold-faced authoritarian regime, which Palestinians live under Israeli occupation, well, get involved. It's better to fight that even for yourselves, even for the most base, selfish reasons, to get involved with the Palestine stuff so you can fight it over there instead of having to do it here. Well, I mean, the theme that I've been talking about is if they're willing to do it to Palestinians, they're willing to do it to you. So if they're willing to starve Palestinians over there, the same government, that's part of the same system, that's extractive, that's inherently violent, that quashes dissent, both foreign and domestic. Well, if they're willing to not allow aid into Gaza, they're willing to let you starve, cut social programs, raise rent, and to criminalize poverty. Well, the next steps now in terms of within the context of Palestine and Palestine activism is these massive rallies are great. They show people that they're not alone. You're able to express, find a community, find people to work with. But the real work doesn't happen on these massive nonviolent protests. It happens in small, direct action, personal BDS, and what you do in your own sphere. So, I'm a veteran. I take a lot of inspiration from the Vietnam veterans who stopped the Vietnam War in the 70s. And that was shutting down factories, labor movements, intersectionality with civil rights movements, shutting down the supply chains, the shipping, all of the veins, the sinews of war. And you do that not through these large protests, but through small groups. And we live in a capitalist society. So if you want to affect political change, you have to affect the pocketbook. So continue to BDS, but the violence and the Holocaust happening in Gaza and Palestine in general stops in the imperial core. It stops with us because Israel could not act with impunity if our governments didn't give them cover to do so. So it comes from us, and that's why we all have to get involved, not just for the sakes of Palestinians and justice for Palestinians, but for ourselves as well.
That is why now we are seeing it rise up further as the edifice of silence ends, and it will.
My name is Adnan Hussain. I'm the Member of Parliament for Blackburn. 2 days ago marked the 77th year of the Nakba, the catastrophe, and it's often reported that the Nakba is a historical event, but the truth is the Nakba continues, the catastrophe continues. The people of Palestine, they continue to be ethnically cleansed from their land. They're in the midst of an occupation, a genocide, and it's important that we come out in our millions to come out and speak against this catastrophe that continues day in, day out, so that we put our leaders, ask them to intervene and put an end to this. And I'm glad to say that the tides are turning. For the first time in 18 months, I was pleased to see that politicians in Parliament have begun now to call it what it is, a genocide. But we must keep this up.
My name is Emily. I'm a member of the organisation Nakba. We are a group of Jewish people in the UK who are opposed to Israeli occupation, apartheid and genocide, unfortunately, for the last 19 months. We have come down today as part of the Jewish bloc to commemorate the 77th anniversary of the beginning of the ongoing Nakba. We are here at every march, but we felt it was particularly important to come today because, we're not only talking to the events of the last 19 months, but the political conditions that have allowed this genocide to be enacted upon Palestinians and have allowed the international community to, at best turn a blind eye to the actions of the State of Israel and at worst, aid and abet genocide. I mean, first and foremost, I think it's important on a human level to show solidarity with Palestinians and also to show solidarity with people either who survived the Nakba or, the descendants of Nakba survivors, many of whom are here today. I also think it's important strategically, if we think about the way in which the government, talks about quote-unquote Jewish safety, it's important to know that the British government doesn't care about Jewish people, right? They don't care about us. What they care about is using us as a fig leaf to justify their aiding and abetting of a genocide, right? It sounds terrible if you go, oh, well, actually the reason that we're still in the F-35 program, we're still exporting arms to Israel is because we make loads and loads of money off the arms trade, or, we want a strategic foothold in the Levant. That's terrible, right? That's shamefacedly awful. If you dress it up in a nice lie about protecting Jewish people, with the added implied sentiment that we don't have to keep Jewish people safe in the UK, we can just push them somewhere else, then people find it a much easier pill to swallow when they're watching children being murdered in front of them. How do we move? I think that's a hard question. I think, being a Jewish person, also being someone who's of Bosnian descent, there's lots of discussion around, like, what can we learn? Lessons from the Holocaust, lessons from Srebrenica, lessons from the Nakba, and I'm always quite skeptical because I feel like, look around us, like, what lessons have we learned from all of these horrible crimes? And, should we be seeing these as lessons? Does it kind of almost have this Christian idea, this culturally Christian image of, like, learning from a horror or trial? But I think basically what we have seen in the last 19 months is that asking the State of Israel politely to stop doesn't work. You can't tell Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and the entire settler structure to stop doing this. What we actually need is concrete, targeted sanctions. We need boycotts. We need organizations to divest from Israeli investment. And ultimately, what we need to do is to ensure that Israel is a pariah state in the same way that South Africa was in the 1990s. Final message, free Palestine, obviously.